2003, Macho Man Randy Savage released a rap album called Be a Man. Randy had asked Lanny to contribute lyrics to a diss track aimed at Hulk Hogan. And Lanny refused, as Hogan had never done anything to him, and in fact, basically gave him his greatest run in his wrestling career, and he made the most money with Hogan. So he just said he won't do it, and then he ends up contributing lyrics to a Mr. Perfect album instead. A few days ago, Hogan tweeted that Lanny was the full-time referee between Randy and I. And you alluded to that before. What was it?
I believe that.
Yeah, what was it between Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage?
Well, Randy didn't like him. I mean, I could talk about Randy Savage, but I think one of the things was some of that stuff you saw on TV where he accused Hogan of having eyes for Elizabeth had a little bit of truth to it in Randy's head. I don't think Hogan ever looked at her like he would like to take her away from Randy or do something with her away from Randy. But Randy was very, very protective of that woman. If he was in a building, he would put her in a room, just her and him. And he would go out and visit around. She never came out of that room. And I never went in there. I don't think anybody went in there because he was very, it was almost, it was weird, eerie that he protected her so much. But he was, when he protected her, he was watching out for her all the time because I think he thought all the other guys had eyes for her. But he would put her in a room and she'd stay in that room till the time to go to the ring. He'd take her to the ring and they'd do whatever and they'd come back and go back to the room. Unless she was involved in something, I don't think she even saw the opponent before the match. She just stood out of the ring. And what was your question? I may have missed the whole question.
It was, why did Randy and Hogan, they worked together for years on and off. Why did they just hate each other or Randy hated Hogan?
Oh, Randy had a knack of hating people. He could just get mad that's why I said there was so much difference between Lanny and Randy. See, I think Randy had a little bit of, he was psycho, basically. Good guy, but he was kind of a psycho and he'd be driving down the road. I used to ride with him and I would look at him sometimes and he'd be driving like this, like, oh, God, oh, yeah. And he'd look over at me and I go, oh, he scared me sometimes. I said, what the hell are you thinking? Oh, nothing, man, nothing. But he was thinking how to get even with somebody, some way, somehow. Somebody had wronged him in his head and it had to be corrected. And he probably didn't correct a lot of them, but he thought about it. So somehow, and it could have been something Hogan said, like he's the star, but in Randy's head, he was the star. So when you got them together, I think they made peace toward the end. I heard they were both in Florida. And, we deal with deaths all the time in the wrestling business. But these guys, you work with them for years and you've known them for years. And even though Randy, I never called Randy when he left, unless I was working a place with him, I never talked to him, never called him up. We weren't that type of friends, but I knew him, respected him. And when I heard he'd been killed in that automobile crash, and I don't really get upset when, wrestlers pass away, but that kind of bothered me. He was the only one, but he came a long way from nothing. He broke in, he weighed about 160 pounds. So what a battle it was for Randy Savage to get to where he got to. Because he fought. He fought for it. He believed in himself. He worked out. He got bigger, came up. And I used to say it was Randy Popo in the beginning. Then it went to Randy Savage. Then he morphed into the Macho Man. And when Randy got up in the morning, after he became the Macho Man, he was a Macho Man 24 hours a day. He never really got out of that character around people. He probably did around Miss Elizabeth, or his second wife that was his high school sweetheart, I heard. But he was on the Macho Man bandwagon 24 hours a day. Because, you know, it's like when he went into a hotel lobby, he was still the Macho Man, because he would probably, somebody would recognize him. He would sign an autograph, but for him to be somebody else, and that would like disappoint the fans. So he just stayed in character, and maybe he wanted to stay in character, but he was the one guy who stayed in character all the time. Handsome Jimmy Valiant didn't do that. When you see Handsome Jimmy Valiant go to the big, hey, daddy, and he was up, he was high energy. And then he come back to the dressing room. Hell, you think he had a damn, he took a bunch of downers and he'd be like this. And you say, Jimmy, you okay? Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. You'd have to strain to hear what he was saying. So a big difference between those two.